Concentrate on the facts, concentrate on what we know, and concentrate on your own businesses.
We can't protect every business.
Jobs are under threat of going.
These are tough times, and there will be more to come.
So, the furlough scheme, how's it going? What have you heard from businesses out there?
Well, yeah, all businesses have actually made their first furlough application now over the last few days. I mean, I think as with most of these schemes, business owners and the staff within the business who've been actually having to make practical use of these schemes have been hesitant, anticipating of how they're actually going to work. But my personal experience in the businesses that I'm involved in, and the feedback that I'm getting from other business owners is, so far so good with the furlough scheme. Everything's gone as smoothly as can be expected or can be hoped for, and we just need to see now if the money hits our bank accounts this week.
Do you know many people that have furloughed staff? Is it something that lots of your colleagues are doing? Have you furloughed staff?
Yeah, I've furloughed staff in some of our businesses. I mean, some of the businesses we've effectively had to furlough all the staff. Other businesses we've furloughed some staff. It depends what sectors they're in. I mean, obviously, leisure businesses, for example, bars, pubs, clubs, hotels. These are businesses which are completely closed down and have got no ability to trade, even in a reduced capacity. So all of the staff in those businesses and those style of business are furloughed. Other businesses which are still operating on a reduced capacity of furloughing staff. But I mean, I haven't come across many businesses that haven't furloughed staff. I mean, obviously, very small one-man, two-man band operations, either may not have had any staff to furlough or may not be able to furlough themselves. But I haven't really come across anyone who hasn't taken advantage of the scheme.
How do you decide what help to go with? It seems, if you're like a one-man band, two-man band, surely maybe self-employed help is better, or is it better to furlough yourself? Can you get a coronavirus grant? How do you figure this out? What's the best way to go navigate this kind of situation that really we've never had before?
So there's multiple answers to that question, really, Tara. I think as we discussed last week, there's grants available. There's the Corona Business Loan Interruption Scheme available. There's schemes for employers. There's schemes for the self-employed, and there is the furlough scheme. First of all, it's important to understand which ones you do qualify for, because not everybody qualifies for every bit. If you are an employee, then for example, you're not obviously able to take advantage of the self-employed scheme. If you are an employer, then you won't be taking advantage of the self-employed scheme. But whatever you do qualify for, you are allowed to take advantage of more than one of those schemes. So, for example, a small business could take advantage of the £10,000 grant and apply for a Corona business interruption loan and furlough staff if needs be. So it's really important to understand which of the different schemes are applicable to you, and then which ones you need to take advantage of. I mean, for some businesses which have been fortunate enough not to lose any trade, I guess, corner shops and supermarkets which are doing fantastic trade right now, these businesses won't be looking to furlough any staff, therefore they won't need to take advantage of that. But if you need to take advantage of more than one of the options available to you, then you are able to do that.
And which businesses are most at risk, do you think, during this lockdown time?
A couple of answers to that, really, Tara. I mean, from an obvious perspective, businesses which are unable to trade at all, leisure businesses, businesses where it's impossible, for customers or staff to get to their work. These are the businesses which are, let's say, more obviously most at risk. But I think, ultimately, every business owner is at risk in the medium to long term if they aren't, really taking stock from what this situation has meant to people. I mean, there's so many businesses, as we discussed last week, that are actually potentially not viable businesses anyway, and Corona has really highlighted that. So I think businesses that don't have solid fundamentals, that don't have a good product, a good offering, the right margins, the right economics about them, are businesses that may not have immediately suffered yet, but are very much at risk in the long term. So I think it's very important important that people don't just look at the businesses that are immediately affected right now in Corona, but actually use this as a bit of a like a wake up call, a time to take stock, to look at their business and see what kind of changes they can make to their business model to ensure their viability going forward.
And what kind of other advice can you give to businesses at the moment in terms of the fact that Chris Whitty said last week that we're going to expect social distancing measures to continue right until the end of the year, basically until we have a vaccine or a drug that can help combat coronavirus? Like, how can businesses now plan for that if they know that their business is going to have to change in some way?
Well, as I've been talking about a lot over the last month or so, now is really the time that all businesses need to be looking at how they deliver their business model, how they operate as a business. Are they set up right? Do they have the right staff? Do they have too many staff, etc.? And I guess as we've talked about a little bit now, and we've talked about before, preparing your business and making your business survive isn't just about how we get through the next few weeks of Corona or how we've survived the last few weeks of this crisis, but where does your business sit for the long term? And I think very much the world has changed now. Will it change back at some point? Perhaps, who knows? But I think even if the government aren't imposing things like social distancing, I think a lot of individuals will self-impose a lot of these things. I think customers, potential customers' buying habits are going to have changed. The way people live their lives and the things that they want to do will have changed. So I think it's very important for all business owners not just to think about the present now, but to really understand their business model going forward and decide, use this time wisely to think about what changes they can make for the long term and how they need to adapt to very much what is going to be a new world. I mean, we've talked about things last week such as working from home. And the fact that, yes, it's something that's been forced upon everybody now, but many business owners are going to come back, once we are allowed out, and actually not want to go back to big offices. Maybe some of the staff that have been furloughed, they will realise that they can't operate with going forward, and this is going to have a knock-on effect to everybody. If you're a landlord, and therefore less people are going to be coming to your offices, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with your property? If you're bars and restaurants, is social distancing going to be an issue on there? Is that going to be one of the sectors which is the last to reopen properly? Even if it isn't, what are customers going to do? So I think it's really, really, really important that everybody is looking at the bigger picture and looking very much going forward. Not just about how we get through the next 3 or 4 weeks.
It really feels like people are starting to realise now that things, and they're not going to just snap back. Businesses aren't going to be able to reopen, as we may have previously thought that they would reopen straight away. And do you feel like the lack of information out there, the lack of guidance on what things to apply for, we're not being given any warning about how a lockdown might end? Like, how can business owners deal with that? Do you feel like there should be more information? I
think what's really important for business owners is to actually try and ignore as much of the noise as possible. I for one, I'm not someone who wants to subscribe to all the WhatsApp groups or all the the social media groups out there, with people talking about what could or what may be happening. I mean, yes, I think in an ideal world, we'd like very clear directives from the government, but I think the reality is that they probably don't know much more than they're already telling us. I mean, obviously, I'm sure they're working on many strategies in the background, but this is a learning curve for everybody involved. And I think the government are doing the best that they can do under the circumstances. So I think my advice for all businesses is to really make your own decisions, based on your circumstances and your business models. I for one, I'm not theorising at all about when lockdown's going to end. Listen, I know it's going to end at some point. Is it going to be 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months? I don't know. I know it's not going to be, say, 3 years. But, I think if I spend my energies trying to decide, is it 2 weeks or is it 3? Is it 3 weeks or is it 5? It's really going to distract me from actually being able to make the best decisions for the business for the long term. I think the changes that people need to make for their businesses and the tactics and the strategies they need to employ are the same where the lockdown lasts for 2 weeks, whether it lasts for 4 or 8. So I think we really have to do what's right, not keep upbeat, keep as positive as possible, and not get dragged down by noise and theory and supposition. Concentrate on the facts, concentrate on what we know, and concentrate on your own businesses.
So one of our readers has sent in this video with her dilemma about her bridal business.
Hello, my name is Jenny. I own a bridal hair business. I have been going for 15 years and my business is very successful and quite well known within the area. I feel that there has been so much about how it's affected restaurants and the theatres and the cinemas and the other entertainment industries, but we're not hearing anything about the wedding industry. And let me tell you, we have been directly hit by this situation. We cannot work. For us, it's not just a case of we have to work from home. I can't get there to style a bride for a wedding that's not happening, and therefore I can't work. I have literally been changed 20 odd weddings so far that have been postponed, and I'm having to fit the dates into 2021. Now 2021 is already a busy year, so how do I squeeze the dates in? I can only do 1 wedding per day, so it means that I'm going to be earning significantly less next year than I would have been, and my business is going to suffer for this.
So first of all, Jenny, I want to say that my sympathies are with you. I may not be in the bridal sector, but I feel your pain, and I'm feeling it myself, as a lot of business owners that I speak to every day are feeling very similar problems to you, albeit in different sectors. I think a few pieces of advice for you, and also for everybody else listening to this, whatever sector you're in. I think you can take this advice and reframe it for whatever your particular sector or business model is, because some of these theories are generic and applicable across the board. First of all, aside from your business, I think it's important to make sure you've taken care of everything you need to take care of financially in your personal circumstances. Even if you're a small business owner, it's very often easy to kind of fail to make the distinction between business and personal. But you have options available to you with your personal finances as well as within your business. So, for example, have you taken advantage of speaking to your mortgage company to get a holiday on your mortgage payments? Have you cancelled any unnecessary direct debits? Have you cut all the possible fat out of your personal budget and reduced your monthly cash burn rate? Then when it comes to your business, I've got 3 stages of advice for all business owners in this position, really. First of all, we're talking about immediate survival. Secondly, we're looking at what pivoting options are available to your businesses during the length of lockdown. And thirdly, we're looking at if any of these pivots are maybe viable changes or long-term amendments to your business model in the future. So first of all, it's important to look at, can you deliver your service to your customer base, but just in a different way to normal? So obviously, restaurants have become takeaways in the short term, for example. I'm talking about theories like that. Obviously, for you, Jenny, in the bridal sector, and doing hair particularly, there is no way for you to continue to offer your exact direct service in the short term. Secondly, I think it's important to look at your skill set, and is your skill set translatable to other potential areas? So Jenny, you're a hairdresser in the bridal sector. Now obviously you only concentrate on the bridal sector, but as a hairdresser you have the ability to service other non-bridal clients. Obviously during lockdown you have the same problem as all hairdressers do, and you're unable to offer any kind of hair cutting or hair doing model. But I say that so that anybody listening to this can start to think about their own personal skill set and how applicable it may be to other methods of income generation. Now what we need to do with you, Jenny, is to really see what other services, what other methods of income generation you can do from your existing customers, your historical customers, or potentially any of your prospects. Now, I stress the fact here that this may not be where you want to be for the long term. It may not be where you want to be at all, but right now we're looking at how do we survive, how do we put food on the table personally, how do we keep some cash flowing into the business and keep the doors open and make sure that we're still here going forward. So I mean, you have a customer base that have already dealt with you, that know you, they like you, and they trust you. And they are the three key factors for being able to make sales to people. So are there any other things that you can sell these people in the meantime? Maybe not directly selling yourself, but are you able to market other people's services to them, for example? I mean, we know about your customer base. We know that they are married, probably recently married, and therefore potentially young. So what do young married people want to buy? I can't tell you off the top of my head. I was never great in the marriage department, but I would assume things to do with new houses, things to do with health and beauty, maybe things to do with kids, etc. These are all the kind of ideas you need to be thinking about. What can you sell these people? And as I said to you earlier, this isn't just about how you may be able to pivot now. Some of these things may give you viable options for the long term. It may make sense to you in the future to be able to cross-sell other people's products. So what's been a negative situation you've thrown into now may open your eyes for potentially larger income generating opportunities in the future. So I think there's many things that you personally can think about. The key is to approach it all with an open mind, to be as positive as possible. Look, I understand you're frustrated, I understand your pain, but you've kind of got to put that to one side now, really, and look at what you can do to get yourself out of this situation. And there are options. You just need to think and look with a different pair of eyes, to what you normally would do.
That sounds like really good advice, Matt. Thank you. Thanks so much for being with us this week. And remember, if you've got a question, leave it below or email money@the-sun.co.uk.